What's going on, fellow simmers? This is Captain Gonzo with that Flight Sim channel, and as you can see today we are in the infamous TBM850 by Black Square. Now some of you may already know, some of you may not. The TBM850 developed by Black Square is built around the default title TBM930, and essentially what they did was pretty much take the exterior model, tweaked it up a little bit, added some more features and designs that you will not find on the default aircraft, and they obviously retrofitted the cockpit with analog gauges and a little bit of mix of analog with some digital displays and stuff like that. We'll be taking a look at here shortly once we climb inside, but for now let's just take a second and admire this beautiful piece of work that Black Square have developed for us. I am a huge fan of this aircraft, and to be honest guys, I think it's probably my #1 aircraft right now to start up from a cold and dark setup. So we'll be climbing aboard here shortly, and I will be running you through that startup, so just stay tuned. Alright guys, so here we are inside the luxurious and beautiful interior of the TBM850. Now let me just make a quick personal note here. I spent many years working on the ramp as a line service technician, and I used to see a lot of TBMs. They're very, very common, very popular single engine turboprop aircraft, and this is pretty much on the money on how TBMs are pretty much designed and looked in the interior. So just a quick little note to point out here, this aircraft has a little hidden feature. Back here you'll see the chocks, and if you want the chocks to be displayed on the outside, you just click there, and if we were to go outside right now, actually you can see them right there on the main gear. There are the chocks, but because we are preparing for departure, let's go ahead and just bring them back here to the back seat, and we know that our chocks are clear right now. Parking brake is on. Let's go ahead and close this cabin, shall we? First thing we want to do, let's pull up that ladder. And check this out guys. Nice and easy with the ease of passengers in mind. There she goes, nice and locked. We've got green, showing we've got good seal. Everything is good. Let's go ahead and jump in the hot seat now. Okay. So we're cold and dark, just like we want it. Same thing. Let's retract the little steps here for the pilot. And let's bring that door in. Got green, 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 and green. We are good to go, guys. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this is one of my favorite aircraft to start. I watch a lot of Steve Knievel's videos. You guys may be familiar with him. He is a world-renowned TBM pilot, and I actually got to meet him in real life when I worked in the ramp, and I used to love watching him fly that old TBM. But anyways guys, I will not be referencing the checklist today. I'm just feeling a little lazy, and I want to test myself. I'm going to do this off of memory. Alright, so just hang on, follow along. If you need to pause the video as we go along, feel free to do so. I will be taking it step by step, and as always, just take this with entertainment purposes and for simulation purposes. No real world experience in the TBM whatsoever. So here we go guys. First thing we want to do is we want to energize the aircraft. So let's remove the crash bar. Let's go ahead and lift it up. Let's get our battery online. There we go. Voltmeter showing good. Just slightly in the yellow, about to reach green, so we're about 25 volts, no big deal. Let's go ahead and get our ignition to auto. Let's set our generator to main. And let's go ahead and turn on our nav light. Okay. So I'm going to run you through the steps here real quick, guys. We're going to engage the starter. We're going to look for an NG percent of 13% or higher, wherein we will introduce the mixture here to the low setting. We're going to let the NG pull up, torque is going to stay relatively low, and then we'll disengage that starter. Before we do that, let's go ahead and set our fuel selector to auto and get our auxiliary boost pump on. There we go. We've got good fuel pressure. We've got the fuel tank selector to the left. Everything's looking good, so I think we're good to go. Let's look outside, left and right. I don't see any workers or any line workers standing by. Let's get that starter engaged, guys. Here we go. And we're keeping an eye out on this gauge right here. You can see our starter is on the annunciator panel. It's lit up. There's 10%. There's about 13%. Let's go ahead and throw that mixture into the low. Let's keep an eye on that ITT. We do not want it to see climbing past into the amber color here. And if it does reach to the amber color, I believe you should see it come back to the green within 3 to 5 seconds. However, once again, do not quote me on that. NG is rising. Prop RPM is rising as well. Now that we're on the green, we can go ahead and disengage the starter. And let's throw that mixture to the high setting. There we go. Torque is slowly rising. Prop RPM coming up. NG's good. ITT is in the green. Engine temperatures showing good. About 60 degrees Celsius right now. PSI on the oil is looking good. We're on the green. Let's go ahead and get our autopilot and master on for the trims. Let's get our radio on. And right here, the IFIS, which is our electronic flight instrument systems, we're going to go ahead and power that on. And we're going to have power to our PFD and our digital HSI here. Now, as you can see, my backup attitude indicator is kind of just floating around, not doing much. And that is because you have to come up here to your overhead panel and power on your gyro, as well as your ADI and your HSI. There we go. We can see our backup displays or backup attitude indicator coming to life. We've got some master caution lights going on. I don't see anything right now that is worrying. Right now, if you see this light illuminated before you even turn on the engine, which is the chip, that means that the magnetic particles detector, or metal detector, I believe, again, don't quote me on that, has picked up some type of metal debris or something in the engine or in the oil lines. So in that case, if that was the case, guys, this aircraft has a neat little feature here. On the weather radar, you just go to the log, actually go to the nav, and if you don't see your engine condition at 100%, you might see it down at like 2%, 0%. All you have to do is press repair engine. Now, I highly advise you do this before you go through the startup procedure. That way the engine is virtually repaired and you should be good to go, and you should no longer see that light illuminated. But anyways, looks like we're good. We've got a healthy engine, good startup. We've got a message here on the PMS750, which is, again, a pay-aware add-on, just showing that we have no arrival airport. No biggie. Let's go ahead, get this all set up. We're squawking VFR today, of course, which is 1200, and we're on standby because we're still on the ramp. We're not moving. Let's take a look at our annunciator panel. So it wants us to get our pitot heat on. Let's go ahead and throw them on. They're right here just behind the yoke on the switches. Pitot heats are on. And let's take a look at our bleed and auxiliary boost pump. The boost pump will now go to auto. We'll leave the fuel selector on auto as well. And right here you will find your bleed air system on the environmental control system. So let's go ahead and get the bleed air to auto. Let's get our air conditioning on now that we've got the engine started, and our fan flow to auto. Now here's where you'll find your cabin altitude pressurization system. So as you start to climb, you have to keep an eye out on your altimeter, whatever altitude you're in, and you're going to set that little wheel here accordingly as you climb, because that's important for pressurization, and that way you don't lose consciousness or your passengers have a rough experience. And one thing I did forget to do, guys, again, this is why maybe we should be on the checklist. That prop lever that you just saw me move should have been up on the max RPM setting before starting. But again, thankfully we're in a simulator, so nothing crazy. But anyways, we're going to keep it just a little bit low today until we get ready to taxi. But that about does it for the startup, guys. So right now we're going to release the parking brake. And before we do that, we're going to go ahead and just press the B key, or Bravo, on your keyboard and look at your altimeter. In this case, it looks like temperature today and the pressure is set to standard, so nothing changing. But if you have a weather preset on, or you've got real weather on and you're too lazy and you don't want to go manually setting around your altimeter, you can just press B and look at that. It picks up to whatever the sim has on right now. So with the aircraft being powered on, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and get our taxi light on. We're clear on the left, clear on the right. And while we're here, let's go ahead and set our flaps for takeoff. And right here, you can see this indicator is for your rudder trim, your aileron trim, and your elevator trim, as well as a flaps indicator. As you can see, we are in the takeoff config, which is what we want to do. Let's go ahead and set our rudder trim to the right, to the takeoff setting. Highly advisable for you to do that. And you can find that right here with the rudder trim switch on the yoke. So let's go ahead and just press right, and let's keep an eye out on that needle. And it's slowly coming over to the takeoff setting. Again, this is a Pratt & Whitney PT6, a very, very powerful engine. So if you do not set your rudder, get ready to fight that rudder down the runway, as this aircraft is going to want to push you left as that propeller picks up speed and you apply more torque. But anyways, let's go ahead and release the parking brake. And the first thing we'll do is, as we start taxiing, we're going to check the brakes. Looking left, looking right, nobody's in the way. There's the brakes. Good brakes on my end. And you want to slowly add power to this bird, guys. This plane likes to pick up speed quickly. Well, let's go ahead and taxi out. Again, keeping clear of the aircraft here parked. Looks like we've got a couple of PA-28, some old Archers or Warriors there. We'll stay clear. Say goodbye to the guys there on the tower. They're probably wondering why the heck I started taxiing without asking for permission, but you know what? It's my simulator. My airfield. I do what I want. So let's take it down to runway 29 and we'll pick up on the departure, guys. Alright guys, here we are on Alpha, holding short of 29, so let's go ahead and get this bird ready for departure. We'll pretend we've got a takeoff clearance, so we'll go ahead and get our landing lights on. Strobe lights on. We'll set the pulsating system, which sets your left and right hand landing lights to flicker on and off intermittently. And what we're going to do is go ahead and check that everything is good. Let's go ahead and get that propeller full forward, mixture's full rich. Once again, verify trims are set. We've got a good trim setup for the rudder. Let's go ahead and bring that elevator trim just slightly down a little bit. Everything's looking good. Now, something I did not do before the startup was to check our annunciator panel. Obviously, you want to do that. We'll go ahead and check it, but everything's looking good. We'll go ahead and clear our master caution and our warning. Let's go ahead and go into altitude reporting mode here on the transponder. Now let's take the runway. And just referencing the V speeds of the aircraft, we want to be looking to rotate at 85 knots. And then we're going to establish a best rate of climb, or VY, of 123 knots once we clean up the bird and get the flaps up. Right now, nobody's on the approach. Nobody's on the runway. Runway's ours. And here we go, guys. Let's get some power going. And again, just be ready with that rudder pedal. Power's coming alive. Torque's looking good. NG's good. Prop's good. ITT looking good. Airspeed's alive. There's 60 knots. 80 knots. 85. And slight downward pressure here, or backward pressure on the yoke. And look at that. A beautiful rotation. We've got a positive rate of climb. Gears coming up. And then we're trimming. We're using that elevator trim to help us maintain a pitch. And we've got a good healthy climb rate here of about 1,500 feet a minute. Let's go ahead and clean those flaps up. Flaps are coming up. Now let's pitch for that 123 knots as a VY, or best rate of climb. And if you take a look down here underneath the PFD, you've got your little ball indicator for your turn slip coordinator. Remember, we set the rudder biased right because of our takeoff roll. So let's go ahead and neutralize that rudder trim now. Let's go ahead and start bringing it back left. And there we go. Rudder is back in the middle, or the rudder trim, I should say. Let's pitch down slightly. Again, stay within that 123 knots. And look at that, guys. She climbs effortlessly. Let's go ahead and get a right bank here and take a look at this beautiful scenery here in California. I just love the scenery out here in the west side of the states. Here in Florida, unfortunately, we don't have much to look at besides trees and swamps. So I always enjoy coming out here in the sim and just getting a taste of what it would be like to fly out here on the west coast. So hopefully one day in the real world I get to do that. But anyways, guys, I'm going to continue climbing here. This will do it for this video. I really wanted to focus more so on the startup procedure more than anything. In the future, however, stay tuned because we will be doing a series of tutorials for this aircraft that will dive in deeper into the autopilot system, navigating, doing some cross-country flights here. And again, you can probably expect us to be flying out here on the west coast a lot. I'm a huge fan of this side of town. From here, we can fly down to Los Angeles, San Diego. We can go up to San Francisco, you name it. We've got sceneries. We're ready to do all this stuff. So for now, I really want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys taking the time to show some love in the channel. And as always, feel free to drop some comments, some critique, any feedback that you think I might have missed. But for now, this will do it for the TBM850 from Black Square. This is Captain Gonzo checking out on that Flight Sim channel. And as always, guys, happy flying.